Hi everyone, hope you all are doing great. Today we have a special guest with us who is an editor par excellence. His insights will surely help all writers and editors who are going to watch this interview. He is Mr. Pravir Bagrodia, the head of business excellence at ANSR Source. In his 3 decades of professional experience, he has worked as a reporter, editor, and a team lead in many organizations across India. He has a PG diploma in journalism from the Indian Institute of Mass Communication, New Delhi, where his performance earned him the Deccan Herald Award. Then he started as a print journalist in a national Newscan and the Times of India, and later moved on to book editing and page design. In the last 15 years, he has focused on content quality and quality management in e-learning companies. He has completed an executive management program from IIM Bangalore and is an ardent practitioner of Lean Six Sigma. His belief in ethical leadership comes from 3 decades of association with initiatives of change. He's a volunteer at Whitefield Rising since its inception, and he continues to write occasionally on environmental and social issues. What's remarkable about his journey is his conviction about his life's direction and life calling. So that's led him to dropping out of electrical engineering within 3 months, and he did some voluntary work and went on to study English literature, journalism, and management. So let's hear more from him. Good morning, sir. I'm delighted to have you with us. It's such an honor to have you with us. And to begin this interview, I would like our viewers to know more about your professional journey and how the switch from engineering to English journalism happened.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you for the privilege of being part of this discussion, which I hope everyone finds informative and interesting. So your question to my dropping out of engineering and walking out of it in a cycle rickshaw, and this happened in Eastern India. And it was a string of things that led to that U-turn that I took. And I can share a few memories of that time. Now, I have a saying which goes like this, which I like a lot. The problem with the rat race is that even if you win the race, you are still a rat. I never liked to be part of the rat race and follow a herd mentality. I feel we should do what is right and what we deeply feel is right. It is critical, I feel, that one pursues one's passion, and also extremely important that we excel in one's field of choice. So these were some of the ethos that I grew up with, I suppose. And when I left engineering, of course, it earned big bets from all the people around me. It was a difficult decision. Not many people take it, but what helped me was my father was sided with me, and he gave me the flexibility to do what I want to pursue in future. That helped me a lot. Now, when I took this U-turn, this was an unheard of thing, particularly in a remote corner of India. But what has changed, I think a mindset has changed. Things have evolved over the last few decades. And if you look at the movie Three Idiots and the lessons it imparts, those happenings around the world in recent times have made such decisions more acceptable by the society. But I feel that we shouldn't go only by what society feels in such matters. It's important that we do course correction where we feel the need to, and we will have the last laugh, and we shouldn't worry about what the society will say as long as we are doing the right thing. Now, what happened, I'll like to elaborate a bit. So my primary interest during my school years, and I was doing well in academics and other fields also, was in Indian and world history, physical and political geography, economics and political science. And I was interested in sports to business, politics to history. And my favorite subject, I remember in school, we used to have a subject called general knowledge. And I was an avid quizzer. I used to participate in many inter-school competitions. Now, what happened was a string of circumstances, and I don't want to elaborate there, led me in class 9 to intensely study the science and mathematics and not focus on other subjects. And this continued for around 5 years till the first year of degree, because 11th and 12th was all about PCM. And but the one connecting thing was my habit of reading, being a voracious reader, particularly of newspapers, news magazines, occasionally books. And English was an important subject throughout, including up to class 12, even with the science subjects. So that helped me probably. So through entrance exam statewide, I got into engineering, and I found myself at sea. I was not interested in those subjects. And also for other reasons too, I was suffering, and my health suffered a lot in the first few months. And one fine day, something happened and I walked out of the college, and there was no looking back. The course correction definitely helped, but the damage to health could never be reversed, some damage. I made up for my academics later. I lost a year, did not get admission in any college. I ended up studying BA English Honors in Delhi University through correspondence. But what happened was a door opened, and I ended up with some deeply satisfying work for 3 years, along with my studies, which were done through distance education, with a most inspiring individual and a wonderful institution for these 3 years. Now, what happened was, so there was no, in a way, it was a blessing in disguise, you can say. And then, of course, getting into full-time course at IIMC, journalism course, it was a natural inclination. By then I was more and more clear that this is the right path for me. And all through, and I was not so interested in literature, I want to clarify here. My interest has been more in language, and I see journalism and writing, editing as more of a means to serve the society, to help the society as well, or what you call people, and also create awareness about the environment, which you can call planet. So I see it as a means. And one thing that is common is the way I loved words, the world of words. So that is how it happened. One other point I would like to mention here, that it's a life is full of strange incidents, coincidences. And it so happened that 20 years later, exactly 20 years after I quit engineering, I walked into the campus of IIM Bangalore for an executive management program. By then, there was a change of a slight twist, in the sense that from the world of content, pure content quality, I was moving to management. And this whole course, the duration, this part-time course, coincided with the shooting of Three Idiots. And there used to be this board of Imperial College of Engineering at IIM Bangalore. So it was like a twist of life, where the convocation happened soon after the release of Three Idiots film, and we got certificates from the same stage where one of the most popular scenes of this movie was enacted. If you remember, IIM Bangalore was the venue of many of the campus was a venue for Three Idiots shooting for many of the scenes. And why I'm mentioning this is this movie was an endorsement of a difficult step I had taken 2 decades earlier. That's all I want to share with you. Thank you, Saurabh.
Thank you so much, sir. And we are so glad that you made the path, and you also inspire so many people to follow your footsteps. And I know this through while I was at ANSR Source for some time. So, sir, speaking about your love for language and even the love for words. What are your favorite books? I'm just curious to know which books you love the most, and what are your favorites?
So I feel that to become a writer, to be a good writer, reading precedes writing. One should read. And I was a voracious reader. At an early age, I picked up various newspapers in 3 languages. And I was also reading those days magazines like Illustrated Weekly of India and later India Today and many others. And my reading had a variety. It was not confined to one genre. And I feel that there is a lot to be read in articles in magazines also, and not necessarily. And nowadays, of course, I have switched to news portals. So if you're asking me about books, one limitation I have is I'm an extremely slow reader by nature. So I find it difficult to read books. But I do read, but I have to be selective because of the time that it demands. So I primarily read nonfiction, and I will give you a few names of some of my books, but I also read fiction occasionally. In early days, my favorite was the Hardy Boys series, if you remember. And I really liked in my course, the Thomas Hardy's The Mayor of Casterbridge. It's an interesting novel. And among poets, I will say poems of Wordsworth and Tennyson have I really liked in English language. Of course, I do read, I have some exposure to other Indian languages also. And I read literature when I can of other languages, sometimes translated, sometimes if I know the language, I read directly. I also like books like Sudhamurti's short stories. So my interest is varied. In terms of my favorite books that you asked, coming to that, Rusi M. Lala, with whom I had the privilege of interacting many times over several years, is definitely probably my favorite author. And he was Bombay-based. He had, of course, he wrote on variety of subjects, and I like biographies. So probably that is the other connect I have. And among his books, A Touch of Greatness and The Creation of Wealth, these 2 books I stand out. And other books that I can mention from early years is Nani Palkiwala's We the People and We the Nation. These 2 books adorn my shelves even today. And I like also management books, and particularly biographical management books. So Ekkyo Marita and Sony, Made in Japan, is one book I will like to mention. It's a fascinating book because it also it's a combination of biography of a Sony co-founder. It talks about Japanese culture, about industry, about what happened in Japan post the Second World War. So that is one unputdownable book, I will say. And many others like that, but other books I can mention is this rare book called Letters from a Businessman to His Son by Canadian industrialist G. Kingsley Ward, another interesting book. And in recent times, I've enjoyed Crossing the Chasm and Tipping Point. These have management lessons also, but they can be read as normal books too. Malcolm Gladwell's books, and he's the author of The Tipping Point. Thank you.
So there are also people like me who have an inclination towards writing, but have no formal degree in literature or journalism. So to people like us, what would you suggest?
It's a difficult question, important question, but I will attempt to answer as much as I can from my experience of this field. See, I feel training is vital. Without training, you can't, you have a slow progress in this field, particularly if you are a writer of nonfiction. A certificate course or a diploma, if not a full-fledged MA or postgraduate diploma, if you can have at least a short certificate course, even if it is an online course or an offline college, if possible, at some institute of some credibility, it will be very helpful. From my own experience, I can tell you something. that I spent 9 months at IIMC, Delhi, and it gave me a precious platform to learn every aspect of the craft. To the extent that we had a printing press also in the campus. And from photography to what the nuances of broadcast journalism, how to write for radio, for example, and using short sentences. A lot of tips we got there. I will talk more about them. And I will tell you one more interesting part of my training, having done a few certification courses in various fields. I spent 6 weeks at Asian College of Journalism, Bangalore. You may be aware that before it moved to Chennai. And I happened to be the first editor of its lab journal. It's called The Word. And those 6 weeks were the first phase, and I unfortunately dropped out of college. By then already I had experience, work experience, as well as my earlier diploma. So I dropped out and got into a job. So I did not complete my ACJ course, only the first phase I completed. But those 6 weeks, I can tell you, were precious. So much learning happened during those, during the first phase of the course. So what are those things that you learn as a, depending on whether you are a news reporter, whether you are, but these tips can be used even for writing essays, writing other books, even if any other book, mainly non-fiction, of course. Once again, I am saying that I'm not an expert at fiction writing or poem writing, so I won't like to comment too much, but I'll give you some examples of what we learn in during these training programs, good training programs by competent trainers or mentors. So you learn about inverted pyramid, for example. So when you write a report, you when to use inverted. You don't use it in news features necessarily, but definitely in a regular report. You bring the most important point first. When you write a news analysis or a news feature, then you adjust yourself accordingly. Maybe the climax is more important, what are the points you bring in, and in the differences, other differences, you talk more about facts in a news report. So all that you come to know. When you are writing an essay, you keep the climax to the last, usually. When you are writing an opinion column, you are allowed the liberty to, you should be an expert first in that field. And opinion and facts shouldn't be mixed up, and opinions, when you write an opinion column, you have that ability to give your own views, but when you are writing a straightforward report or an essay, you should be careful, what you are speaking, because you should cite credible facts. For example, the other thing you learn is if you are writing a novel, feature, something feature-ish kind of a thing, human interest story, you can use flowery words. You need not use only straightforward words to make things interesting. Another aspect of learning I had, and I have been in this field also of content marketing, in that the call for action is critical and you keep it to the last. So you end your writing with, suppose you are working for an ad agency or a PR agency, so you have to know that end with things like to register, click here, something as simple as that, the placing of that. So all this, how do you learn? Only through training you can learn, or through long experience also you can learn, but provided you have a coach or a mentor to guide you, then you learn about intro. These are a concept of 5 W's and 1 H. What, where, when, by, and how. You learn about what is how to give headings, how to give subheadings, the importance of subheadings. One thing I will give a tip is, please use subheadings and break all your writing, particularly most of your writing. It doesn't apply to creative writing sometimes. If you look at Charles Dickens' books, they are very different. He uses long sentences and long paragraphs, and he has that command, but not all of us are in his league, so we cannot afford to do that. So in general, I recommend using short sentences, short paragraphs, breaking things with subheadings. After 2-3 paragraphs, put thing. You come to know of how to write captions, credit lines, importance of credit lines, importance of plagiarism check, that you shouldn't indulge in plagiarism. All that comes from training. You know how to make infographics and tables. And when I say training, it includes things like we learn typing, the typing speed increases as part of our training, touch typing. Those days, manual typewriters. Later, it helped me in computer typing. Then MS Word or any other such typographical tools. You need training in that too, because it speeds you up. And you also come to know a lot more about your perspective is better. You come to know the difference between a news item and an editorial and an advertisement. And even surrogate advertising, you will come to know if you have good training. And you take decisions based on magnitude and proximity. You also bring in humor, the role of humor in your writing. All that you will get through training if you have. And ultimately, one other thing is, if depending on an interest, of course, if you're a core writer, you don't need that much, but it is helpful to know the world of fonts, typography, photography, the nuances of the photographical, how to choose your subject and all that. So that's what I will say is where training helps, depending on your ability to take up a course.
Yes, sir. Sir, what would you suggest those who don't have an eye for detail?
See, before eye for detail is as an interesting topic, and I will my views are based on my experience and my observations. I feel that eye for detail is an inborn trait, and it cannot be really created. It can be improved a bit through using some focus. You can your ability to concentrate, you can improve. You can calm your mind, for example. But generally, meticulousness or perfectionist attitude comes from your is an inborn trait. And I feel editors, copy editors or proofreaders definitely need eye for detail. But for writers, it is not an essential trait. In fact, sometimes it comes in the way of creativity, and you can become a slow writer with eye for detail, because you end up editing your own work all the time instead of focusing on writing. So my suggestion is those with great eye for detail, if they are writing, they should divide their writing into 3 parts. Let the thoughts flow, let it be written. Then you start editing your own work after a gap, maybe after some time. Then you will find more mistakes also. You can do fact check, accuracy check. That's what editing is all about. You may even change paragraphs. You may insert new sentences. And finally, you do copy editing. Don't try to combine the two. In copy editing, you need eye for detail. And if you don't have that knack, don't worry about it. Give it to another person with eye for detail, a copy editing, who will take care of many of the things which are needed to be copy editors. I'll tell you a little more about what is the difference. So as I said, the editor, how does one choose? Usually a creative person with who doesn't have the patience to correct others' errors all the time. Such people make better writers. One can be both, of course. You can be an all-rounder. And those who are having extreme eye for detail, they tend towards copy editing. So that distinction is there. Both are important. But the important thing is that whatever somebody has written, an author has written, that should go through a copy editor for formatting errors, for because the mindset of a copy editor is different. They go through the guidelines. And one other thing, they also check things like, I'll give you some examples: tons and tons, kilometers. They will convert, an editor will convert miles to kilometers and vice versa, Fahrenheit to Celsius. They will take care of the reader, and make it more presentable, more readable. And a copy editor makes things more legible by choice of fonts. So you need to distinguish whether I can use a principal and principal should be IAL or LE. All these details are looked after by them. So the writer, if they don't know, it's fine. I mean, they can use some, if they don't have eye for detail, one other thing they can do is they should definitely do spell checker. They can also use tools like Grammarly if they find it useful. And they can use tools like Control F and search for all that. And they should maintain checklist. Checklist anybody can maintain. For all the common errors that you make, somebody else has pointed out, you can run it by that checklist, even if you don't have eye for detail. For example, the spelling of tons and tons, the meaning changes. It's not the same 1000 kilo, TONNES, metric ton is different. So you can do a checklist where you will say that in my own writing, I will check all these things. And a copy editor, of course, should take care of smart quotes, straight quotes, double quotes, single quotes, when to use. There are some rules. Yeah.
Sir, the next question is, what is the importance of grammar, punctuation, and formatting?
So I have already said, I think these are all important because sometimes the meanings change and also you don't enjoy. See, ultimately, a piece of writing is also a piece of art. So to enjoy it, it's better that capitalization is proper and the grammar errors are not there. The language is good. So those things can be taken care by a trained editor. And even, so how to improve it? You will ask this. So one suggestion I have is use dictionary a lot. And you can keep checking. And these are all necessary requirements, definitely for an editor and a copy editor, but even for writers, it's good to have a command of grammar. So, for example, semicolon versus colon, dash is an excellent tool. As a writer, you may not know the difference between N dash and M dash. That is okay for a copy editor to take care of. It's not so different. But for a writer to know when to use colon and when to use dash is so important. Because dash has a character of informal character and it can give you a twist of words. It helps you to express your feelings much better. So if you have a command on punctuation, you will use the right tool. When to use exclamation mark, for example. Your writing will become more powerful. So you can use any book. Lots of tools are available online also for grammar, punctuation, and formatting. And basic grammar should be correct, whether it is tense, or whether prepositions, for example, you should know when to use articles, conjunctions. It's good to know as much as possible the basics of language when you are a writer. And definitely the more you tend towards editing, I suggest that you should know more and more these things.
Sir, you just spoke about dictionary. So likewise, what other resources and books can help writers and aspiring editors?
Offhand, I can't think of many things. I can definitely say that good dictionary, for US English, something like MW, Merriam-Webster. Nowadays, it's available both offline and online. And you can also use Lexico or Oxford or Cambridge for UK English, which is also more popular in India. And definitely go for a style guide. You make your own style guide also, but the ready-made ones are Chicago Manual of Style, very popular. You can either go for an online subscription or a book. And the other popular one is APA. And there is another, there are many others, including AP Style Guide. So go for that. You can buy them. You can have a subscription or buy a book. One book which I benefited, I don't know whether it's available in the market is Editing by TJS George. It used to be our textbook at IMC, and then I interacted with TJS George at ACJ, where he was involved. And I expressed to him how this simple book has helped me a lot. It has all the tools. It's like a one-stop reference for an editor, and even helps a writer. One recommendation I have is Reader's Digest. I benefited a lot from reading it, and Reader's Digest is quite interesting. It helps you to enhance your vocabulary as well as it helps to improve your language. It's a good tool. And of course, you can read articles, particularly if you look at Reuters, Bloomberg, several news portals are available. You can pick up a lot of training from there.
So the final question, it has been, I found some critics and some legends, literary legends criticizing their contemporaries like Paulo Coelho for lack of vocabulary. They accuse that writers like him don't use much words. They just manage with a few. So how important is it for writers to improve their vocabulary, and how important it is for them to have a repository, a lot of words at their disposal?
So I feel vocabulary is good to have, particularly for writers. You can express yourself much better. And the best way to improve your vocabulary is to use Thesaurus. So there are tools, you right click on various computer programs and you will get a Thesaurus, synonyms for various words, and keep building that. And the more Thesaurus you use, the better your language will become. You will have a excellent, like give an example in your writing, if you use very a lot. Very is a much misused word. You know, it's a, then instead if you know the meanings, you can use the right word. For example, exemplary, extraordinary. Instead of saying very good, you can say exemplary, extraordinary, outstanding, marvelous, amazing, awesome, superb, superlative. Any of these other words you use in the right context, it will help you to enhance your writing, make your writing more interesting. I'll give you a couple of examples quickly. Like when I wrote on Delhi Metro for Citizen Matters online portal recently, some 2 years ago. So I built on the headline, New Delhi to Chandni Chowk, and then I enticed the reader to go beyond the intro. You know, so I use of the right words is important. So I started with things like, first things first, the headline of this blog is not the title of an upcoming movie. The script was conceived during a pollution-free ride amid a haze of smoke outside, from New Delhi railway station to Chandni Chowk, a buzzing marketplace in Old Delhi that has withstood the test of time for centuries. Now, you can't write like this if you don't know the meaning of buzzing and all that. And when you read like this, you use words like this, you feel like the reader will empathize with you. The reader is with you, as if they can imagine that scenery. And I'll also like to quote one more among my favorite written lines ever. You know, this was for a magazine for which I used to write called Change for Better, Pune-based magazine. And this was written some 10 years ago. So when Uncle Pai or Anant Pai passed away and was known to me, the person who started after Indrajal Comics, Amar Chitra Katha and Tinkle. And I've had the privilege of interviewing him a few times. And when he passed away, I wrote a tribute in Change for Better. And what I wrote was I built again on words, although his pen and his voice have left the earth. So I told you about Delhi Metro, the first words, how I introduced the concept in Citizen Matters. In this, I am talking about the way I ended the tribute. Although his pen and his voice have left the earth, the ink will remain on paper and his words etched in memory. The universal uncle's works will influence eternity. Anand's creations will live forever. Now, see the play of words here. Anant means immortal. It's a Sanskrit Hindi word for forever or immortal. Now, you are building in it because you have you need to have a good vocabulary to write well, you know, otherwise you're. So this is the concluding paragraph of my tribute. Now, I think these examples I'm giving because to emphasize the importance of excellent vocabulary. And as I said, it's easy to build your vocabulary by reading a lot and using a dictionary and a thesaurus.
Yes, sir. Sir, you spoke about Uncle Pai's tribute. So we also have one more, which is Conrad Hunt. So would you like to speak something on this? Because this is a really, I mean, it's a extremely well-written piece, and I would like to share this also. So here.
Sure, yeah, please go ahead. It's my honor. It so happens that today is coincidentally the death anniversary of Conrad Hunt. And this interview, which I did for Times of India sports page ages ago with Conrad when he was in Bangalore as the coach of the South African women's cricket team. It was a privilege. You know, I remember that conversation, and This clipping is from that time, and this whole episode, I'm meeting him as an interviewer, and the way he expressed. Conrad was a absolutely wonderful human being. I remember those days, and his episode of how he, if you get a chance, if you can share this with the reader, they can see about how Conrad at Eden Gardens, Calcutta, during the cricket match when there was violence, what he did to bring harmony and unity, and how he resolved a grave matter, and how peace was brought by Conrad when he recommended to Gary Sobers, the legendary cricketer. According to me, of course, Gary Sobers, to whom Conrad Hunt was the vice captain when Gary Sobers was the captain of the West Indies team, and Gary Sobers is an all-time great, and Conrad was able to persuade him. So to resume the match after the thing, and this is a fascinating story, and this kind of interviews, one of those rare things I could do. This is what fulfills my journey as a writer, I feel. When I look back at such articles or reports or news features, I feel that it was worth this journey of writing, so that I can bring to the world such episodes and such wonderful humans, and also talk about them and bring to light some great things that are happening in the world, and at the same time, of course, put the searchlight on things which are not right also with the world. And these are the moments when you feel fulfilled as a writer. Thank you, Saurabh.
Thank you so much, sir. It was great talking to you. And it's such a privilege and honor to have you in this interview. So I thank you, all the best, and more power to the work that you're doing, both in your professional career and as well as for the environment. So with that, I remain, sir. Thank you a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. It's all my pleasure, Saurabh. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. You too.